The Dental Brief is brought to you by Omni Premier Marketing and the amazing guests who bring wisdom and advice that you can put to use to take your business and practices to the next level. Find us on Facebook and join the conversation. Get ready to grow because we are kicking off the next episode in 3, 2, 1.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Dental Brief. I'm so grateful to have with us a returning guest today. I'm just going to go ahead and introduce right away Dr. Travis Campbell. Say hello.
Hey, how are you doing?
Hey, I'm fantastic. You're the dental insurance guy. Let's talk a little bit about, we're just going to jump right in. It's going to be a packed episode. So tell us, how'd you become the dental insurance guy? How'd you go from being a dentist to the insurance guy?
I think I have similar problems to a lot of people in that insurance just made me mad at the beginning. There's a lot of things that were causing problems, a lot of issues we were having. So I tried to find answers, and there weren't a lot of sources to find anything. And so I spent a few years, researching laws and contracts and everything else, and found out a lot of the challenges we're having aren't because they're realistic challenges. They're because there's myths that we go by, and the reality is different. So once I kind of learned how the process actually works, we ended up being a lot more successful. And after that, I just, started telling people asked me questions, and it kind of evolved from there.
So I get the frustration part. We hear it all the time. I mean, it seems like half of the online conversations amongst dentists and groups are about insurance, not taking insurance, in-network, out-of-network, PPO. I mean, it's on and on and on. So tell me from your point of view, what is it that dentists are missing out on most that are accepting insurance, or even those that are not because they don't want to accept insurance? What's the biggest loss there?
The biggest loss is not understanding the legal implications and the rules that they should go by. I mean, there's all sorts of myths that you have to file every claim, or that you can't offer patients things like upgrades, or, that going out of network is actually going to solve your problems. It'll solve some problems for sure, but it'll create other issues. So the challenge is you've got to get to the root of the original problem. And a lot of it's misunderstandings. And I'm not going to say I like insurance companies, but when you start to understand them better, it's a lot easier to work with them. You can get paid quicker, faster, and often you can get paid more. So it's one of those, if you figure out the source of the problem, then everybody wins.
Yeah, I had a guest on the program. His recording's actually coming out here pretty soon, that was talking about dental insurance. And I think I was a little shocked, I should say, by the amount of money that is actually spent in profits, or I should say that is taken in profits from dental care. It's not as much as a lot of people think. A good amount of money does go to the patient, and there just has to be a factor, I should say, to the dentist. But there has to be profits, right, for them to exist, and there has to be some type of organization. And I think dentists would be pretty upset if insurance companies just accepted every claim that came in, because they would go broke very quickly and people would be out of money. So I think it is in most dentists' best interest for there to be some type of regulation or some type of oversight when it comes to paying claims. Does that make sense to you?
It does.
Yeah. So I mean, they just can't pay everything that comes in, right? I mean, that would break the system immediately, wouldn't it?
If every dentist was completely authentic and honest and billed correctly, then it wouldn't be a problem.
Right.
Because it would create a pattern that insurance companies, who are just big mathematics companies, can determine the risk, set the premiums where they need to be, and pay. The challenge is there's, unfortunately, still a portion of dentists that are fraudulent in what they do. I mean, I see it all the time, sometimes intentionally, sometimes non-intentionally, but that breaks the system. And that's why I'm not going to say I agree with the tactics they use, but that's why insurance companies use the tactics they do to deny claims, request more information, things like that. So if we fix our own issues, it will solve some of the problem as well, yes.
Sure. If patients didn't get some level of value out of their dental insurance, right, or employers who buy that policy for them didn't get
Hmm.
some level of value, it would go away, wouldn't it?
Oh, most definitely. I mean, it's
Right.
just supply and demand. If
Yeah.
there's not much value, there's no demand. Most the challenge is the other thing a lot of us don't like to admit is a good portion of patients come to the office because they have insurance. Half the population doesn't go to the dentist in a given year. And of those that go, over 85% of them have insurance.
Sure.
So insurance is what drives them to us. We can dislike the process, we can dislike the insurance companies, but they do get patients in the door. Um, so, I mean, there's pros and cons of it for sure.
Yeah. One of the most, I mean, this should tell people something. One of the most successful as far as conversions, as far as ROI is concerned, one of the most successful marketing campaigns and direct mail, or nowadays in social media ads, is use it or lose it. Ads that run in December, people respond to those. People that didn't think about going to the dentist see that and go, oh yeah, I've got this insurance benefit, I better use it before the end of the year. Let's talk a little bit about AI. So we've had in the past some companies that are on the program that are working with insurance companies that are developing AI that is actually going to read imaging and going to determine whether or not they accept the case. Where do you see that going? How do you see that impacting dentists in the next 2 to 3 years and maybe 5, 10 years?
So there seems to be a lot of fear around AI. And again, I'd say a lot of it's misunderstandings. AI is really interesting software. I mean, we have one of them at the office that we run. And a computer is definitely faster than a human. It's better than a human. It can see things we can't see, actually find stuff I wouldn't find. So it's a really cool software. And depending on the software, a lot of times it's not intended to deny claims, which is kind of what the fear is. It's intended to speed up the process. If you remove the human element, A, you get more accuracy in most cases, but B, a computer's far cheaper to run than a human. And that's what the insurance companies are looking for, is they're looking for reduced overhead. Their biggest cost, like our largest cost, is payroll.
Right.
So if they can remove some human element, they speed up the process and they make it cheaper for them, which is a win for them and us. Now, the challenge comes in that some AI softwares don't correctly determine their data points. Perio is kind of the big one. Bone loss. Some softwares will measure the bone loss at the base of the pocket, and some will measure it at the top of the pocket, and that's a huge difference. A lot of times, can be upwards of a millimeter or two. So there are some challenges there, but I'd say that's mostly tweaking. Once there's a standard, I'd say AI is going to help insurance companies be more efficient, but it's also going to help dentists be more efficient. I mean,
Sure.
we run the AI software in our office because it's faster. I mean, it may take me a couple minutes to run through a set of x-rays, and with the AI software, it takes me like 10 seconds. It's also a lot easier for the patient to see because they're not having to evaluate this black and white image that they have no training on doing, versus the AI software actually colors it for them, and so they can see the cavities.
See.
And then it just gives a lot of efficiency for the office, because without it, before we had it, my hygienist would always be, well, there's something here. Do you want to do something? Do you not? Is it filling? Is it not? The AI software makes it simple to where it'll pop up, here's what we think it is, just based on the pixels. And since my team knows I almost never disagree with the AI, it gives them a lot of confidence to tell the patient, hey, look, here's the problem. It's in red. It's a cavity. We're going to probably end up doing a filling, because they know I'm not going to go against what the AI is, because it's never steered me wrong yet.
Sure.
And we've been using it for a couple of years.
Yeah. And I know in medicine, already that AI is finding cancer well before radiologists can find it. It's more accurate. It's almost 100% now in some types of cancer. So I think it's a good thing. I think it's just one of those things we have to adapt to, right, and get used to and learn how to work with rather than against, which is exactly what you're talking about in insurance. So moving into working with insurance. So give me 2 or 3 things that dentists can do today to improve their financial relationship with the insurances that they already accept.
I mean, number one is look at your contracts. There's this concept of being in network directly, which is what most people are. You sign 40 different contracts for 40 different companies in your network with 40 different ones. But if you go indirectly, often you can get a higher fee, meaning you sign up with certain companies that are called umbrellas, and you sign up with 2 or 3 of them, and now you're a network with the same 40 companies, but with higher fee schedules. So that alone can make a massive difference for an office. It's just switching how your contracts are organized. But then you also have the denial issue of whether you're in or out of network. The biggest challenge we have is getting denied, not getting claims paid, not getting reimbursement for the patient. And too often offices are just saying, well, it's denied, tough luck, and patient, you owe the difference. Well, you tend to have an upset patient if that's a surprise bill for them. Versus a majority of the reasons denials happen aren't insurance companies being, evil. It's the dentist and the office not having the documentation that they need.
What's something else that dentists can do to better that relationship with their insurance company?
So the other big challenge is denials. Whether you're in network, out of network, denials tend to happen. Insurance companies don't really, or the reviewers don't know whether you're in or out of network, so it doesn't change that fact. But a lot of it is just documentation. You've got to show the insurance company that that procedure was necessary. And too often offices are just writing off balances or charging patients, which doesn't endear you with a lot of patients when they get surprise bills.
Sure.
So, it's ways to learn on what documentation is necessary. And a lot of times it's what order and timing you do it. If you send them the correct documentation, you get paid. And
Right.
you get paid without denials, without having to fight claims and everything else. You save the office a ton of time. You get more reimbursement for your patients. They have to pay out of pocket less, and everybody's happier.
Right.
And even the insurance company's happier too, because again, a lot of them have to report how much money they're spending on claims.
Right.
And so they're going to spend the same amount either way. So it's not that denials are there necessarily to, reduce the insurance companies out of pocket. They don't want to deal with appeals because, again, that brings in the human element to it. That's their biggest cost they're trying to keep down. So if you can submit your claims in a way that don't get denied, then you get paid immediately, and insurance companies don't have their out-of-pocket costs. So everybody wins.
Yeah. So in that everybody loss model, that's too common. Patient loses, right? Office staff loses because they're dealing with it, and then the dentist loses because they're not getting paid, right? And they're losing money on it. So it's and by the way, that patient frustration, you might lose the patient, but if you do lose the patient, you might also get a bad review too. So many reviews that I see online, negative reviews, are about insurance and billing. It is very frustrating. It is a very frustrating process for everybody. So getting it right the first time makes sense to me. What's one more step we can take?
Well, I mean, if you're in network, realize there's a lot of rules that you think exist that actually don't. You can bill patients for higher levels of service. You can have patients sign to not utilize their insurance in specific scenarios where it would help them. There's lots of opportunities outside the basic, file everything you do. And that's a big portion of in-network, what it takes to be successful.
Sure. So let me ask you this question, and you work with a bunch of practices. By the way, I want to tell our guests about your website. It's dentalinsurancegui.com. Check it out. There's some free courses on there. A great place to start. Who doesn't love free, especially when it can help you make a lot more money and make your practice run smoother. There's paid courses too, but check out the free ones first. It's a pretty good intro, and thank you for providing that. For dentists, I think that's great. Practice, one dentist in the practice that does $700,000 a year in production. What do you think that practice on average, based on your experience, is losing that they're giving back to their insurance companies that they should be keeping?
The average office that is handling insurance the typical way can easily increase by 20% just by changing how they deal with insurance, doing the same dentistry, just getting paid more for it.
Right.
And then if you bring in, renegotiate your contracts, I mean, that can up your fees another 20, 30, 40%. So a lot of times offices are leaving a ton of money on the table by just not utilizing the number one most important thing in the office is how we get paid.
So two practices side by side. One is maximizing every opportunity when it comes to insurance. One is not. There literally could be a $200,000, $300,000 net personal income difference between those two practices. Everything else is the same. Does that sound right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, that's 10 years, 20-year career. We're talking way more dollars than we probably want to talk. I mean, we're talking $3-4 million. So significant amount of money. So I want to encourage the listeners one more time, check out the websites, the dentalinsuranceguy.com. Thank you so much, Dr. Campbell, for coming on. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Good speaking with you.